Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Good evening. Nice to see everyone. I'm Jamie Beard. I am the Executive Director of the Geothermal Entrepreneurship Organization out of the University of Texas at Austin. Welcome to Pivot 2021, everybody. This is super, super exciting. So I sat down over the weekend to try to write a speech to open the conference with, and to talk about all of the strides and the traction and the funding and all the startups that got off the ground this last year, and all of these wonderful things that have happened. And it occurred to me as I was trying to write this that the panels at Pivot this year and the agenda itself really speaks for itself. So what I'm going to do right now is talk a little bit about how Pivot 2021 is arranged this year, how it's organized, how you as an audience member can interact with this virtual platform, which is super cool and really innovative. And then I am going to get out of the way and let the speakers tell this amazing story for themselves. So let's chat a little bit about Pivot 2021 and who did what this year and how it's organized. For those of you who are new this year to the audience, Pivot 2020 was the first in this conference series, and it happened last summer. It was a really quickly organized effort with an all-volunteer team and a $0 budget. And amazingly, it turned out pretty well. Lots of really amazing ideas came out of Pivot 2020, and it was a kind of a catalytic moment that was really exciting for geothermal and pushing geothermal forward. It got a lot of new conversations started. It's named Pivot because we are attempting a pivot from hydrocarbons to heat. This conference series is aimed directly at oil and gas professionals and oil and gas entities, and is an attempt to get conversations started about how those individuals and entities can help push geothermal forward fast by engaging in geothermal challenges and development over the coming decades. So as my friend Bob Metcalf likes to say, a pivot is a transition, but it's just a lot faster. And that's what Pivot is all about, is trying to engage the right minds to get geothermal development going in exponential growth over the coming decade. So mission accomplished on Pivot 2020, really exciting coming out of that, and all kinds of things happened over the past year, which you'll hear all about in the panels over the coming days. So we had new startups that launched and got funded over the past year. We had really impactful media engagement on geothermal and really high profile pieces that were absolutely catalytic and caused a lot of chain reactions for the industry. We had oil and gas entities form geothermal teams and have now geothermal titled executives, which is new and exciting across a lot of entities. And you'll see many of those people speaking on Pivot panels this week. And also, in a really exciting turn of events, some of the world's biggest thinkers and serial entrepreneurs have started to engage in geothermal. So for instance, we're going to see Richard Branson at Pivot later this week. We're going to see TED's Chris Anderson at Pivot. And we're going to see Dan Jurgen interviewed by GeoZone Bob Metcalf later in the week. We've got Jigger Shaw, Generate Capital, and now at DOE, Jigger Shaw later in the week. So really exciting time to be engaging in geothermal, and thank you all for tuning in and engaging. So Pivot 2021 got really big compared to Pivot 2020, and that is directly related to the industry and professional associations that have helped pull Pivot 2021 together this year. So, and over the last year, several oil and gas professional associations really got excited about the promise and opportunity in geothermal for their members. And so we started seeing across oil and gas professional associations, new committees popping up, new workshops that are geothermal themed, new working groups. And all of this is really exciting in terms of gauging new minds in geothermal and geothermal challenges. I'm honored to have this year at Pivot 2020 several co-hosting organizations who really cast the net wide through their networks and assured that we had the absolute best and brightest folks on the Pivot panels this year. Many thanks to the International Geothermal Association. They were a host with Geo last year at Pivot 2020, and they are back this year. Also, the Society of Petroleum Engineers, the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, and Geothermal Rising. All of these professional associations helped make Pivot 2021 what it is this year. And so thank you very much for your efforts. Let's keep that going. I would love to have more professional associations for Pivot 2022. The more the merrier. So let's all get together and make this happen. Special thanks to the U.S. Department of Energy Geothermal Technologies Office for the financial support of Pivot 2021 this year. Pivot 2020 was interesting in that we did it with nothing. This year, we have a professionally produced event, and that is directly thanks to the DOE Geothermal Technologies Office. So thank you very much. The TouchCast experience here is going to be really textured and really engaging. And so let me launch into a little bit about how to interact with this virtual platform and get the most out of the Pivot 2021 experience this year with this really innovative platform. So if you scroll down on your screen, you'll see host and sponsor microsites. So there's logos that show the hosts that I just listed and the Department of Energy as sponsor. If you click on those, it takes you to a microsite with all kinds of resources. So you can peruse not only the geothermal related resources from those entities, but you can also see the members of the geothermal committees, for instance. There's contact information, there's resource links, etc. And there are several upcoming geothermal events that are being hosted by those entities that you can check out that are linked in those microsites. So check those out. Directly above the microsites, there's a scroll of resources, and those resources are, some of them are media spots that highlighted speakers that are going to be at Pivot this week. So big news where they had big deals announced over the past year, for instance. There's also supporting resources for some of the panels. There are reports of significance there. You can also find the recordings from Pivot 2020 if you weren't around last year and you would like to catch up. Some of the speakers this year are back with big updates, so you can see where they were at Pivot 2020 and as a jumping off point for the sessions this year at Pivot 2021. So in your live window, you'll see a toolbar. There are a bunch of functions there that really encourage folks to engage with. First, if you want to have closed captions for Pivot, so if you'd rather read it rather than listen, you can do that. There's a little CC button right below the live screen. You can also choose what language you would like to experience Pivot in there. And just a note that that Pivot will be also transcribed into 10 languages that will be available after the sessions. So there will actually be transcriptions of the panels themselves across 10 languages. Also, there's in your toolbar, there are emojis, and I imagine some of you have already found them. There are some geothermal themed ones in there too. So one of the great things about virtual platforms is that you can bring together all kinds of people from many time zones. It's a lot easier to do that. And you can have big audiences without travel, and of course the pandemic makes that even more interesting. However, you lose that audience experience of feeling the reactions between audience members, but also the speakers lose their feel for how the audience is reacting to what they are saying. And so the emojis, please use them liberally. They are meant to fill that gap in audience engagement and enjoyment of and reaction to what they're hearing. So please feel free to use those in reaction to panels and panelists as they speak. There's also chat and networking functions on the platform, but these you have to opt into, otherwise you're invisible on the platform and no one can see you. So if you go up to your profile and you click on it, you can tick a little box that says that you want to be visible to the public in the platform. And what this allows is for people to not only network with you, so they could reach out to you directly on the platform, but you can also participate in the public chat function. And I would encourage everyone to please join that function and the conversation. That's meant to be a way for audience members to bring up points as the panels proceed, and to talk with one another about the topics at hand. So please make yourself visible and engage in those platforms. The session formats, they're all the same at Pivot, right? So we're going to follow the same type of platform where it's a free-flowing informal discussion moderated by a moderator of a group of panelists. For the more technically difficult topics, because Pivot has such a diverse audience with a lot of, they come to the table with a lot of different levels of knowledge. This is something we noticed last year. For the sessions that are more technically difficult, we've had a 1-minute orientation video produced that we will show before the panel launches to get everybody up to speed about what the panel is going to discuss in very general terms. So all of the sessions that are relevant for a video will have one. The panel will then proceed free flowing and informal discussion, and then we'll have a Q&A toward the end of every panel. Please participate in that. We would love to have some robust discussion with the audience. You can enter a question in the green box at the very bottom of your screen, and those questions are going to be funneled to the moderators to put before the panel. So please take advantage of that. Some sessions have handouts, and you'll see you can interact with those by clicking on them in the individual sessions. So speakers may refer to their handouts, and when they do so, you can click on them and see what they're talking about. Speakers also have additional resources, many of them do, on their bios. So if you click on a speaker bio, you can see all about them. You can also see their resources, and that you can also find contact information for the speakers. Now, we don't want conversations to stop when Pivot stops. That's something last year that was a little bit of a bummer. We had all of this incredible interaction with thousands of people globally, and then there was no clear platform to continue those conversations. So this year, Pivot 2021 partnered with Digital Wildcatters on their Collide platform, which is an app. You can a mobile device app or a desktop app. It's free. And they've set up a geothermal working group that is intended to serve as a resource for folks who, when the conference is over or after hours, if you want to continue the discussion, you can do so on that app. So you'll find in the resources section the Digital Wildcatters logo. Just click on that and it will take you to the download link for that app. So please use that. And that's a way to keep the conversation going. All right, registration stays open throughout the week. So please, if you have folks that you think should join, they can still do that. Sessions are recorded. They will be available on this platform 24 hours after the session ends. So you can go back and listen to ones that you may have missed. The intro videos that I mentioned earlier, I'm also going to put those in the public domain on YouTube. Geothermal really needs some community assets, right, to help spread the word, education. These are entity neutral and not logoed videos that I'll make available after Pivot for folks to use for educational purposes for geothermal. So I'm going to put those on YouTube. All right, so I think that's all of the housekeeping matters. Time to get the party started. This is super exciting. So the first panel at Pivot is moderated by the chair of the brand new SPE Geothermal Committee, Becky Schultz. She's with the IEA, and she's interviewing 4, oil and gas multinationals that have really big, exciting, and bold ideas about how to scale geothermal exponentially over the coming decades. And this panel is really intended to serve as a backdrop to really set the tone of the rest of the week. Because it really is going to dive into not only how big the opportunity is, but how we can, leveraging oil and gas talent, really go fast for geothermal, right? So the rest of the week, we're going to talk about all the different opportunities, but this one is, okay, well, so the opportunities, that's really cool, but how do we do this in practice, and how do we do it quickly? So this is a really exciting panel, and thank you, Becky, for throwing in not only with the SBE committee, but also moderating this important panel. Cool. All right. So I'm signing off. I'll see you all later on in the week again, but until then, enjoy Pivot, and we'll see you later. Bye, everybody.